Okay, so let me just proceed. So I'm just opening the terminal. So before we onboard those applications into Sailpoint, we just need to first look into the target system data. Okay, so first we'll see what is present in the database, and then post that we will be onboarding the same data into Sailpoint. So first I'm connecting to the database. So check what are the databases currently exist. So you can see these many databases that are currently existing, right? So you can see Prism and Track. So these are the two applications that we will be onboarding into Sailpoint. So let's see what is present in those two databases as well. So if you are working on particular database, first you need to check the data present in those database. So you need to connect to it. So use Prism. So now I'm in the Prism database. So let's check what is present in that particular database. So first I'm checking how many tables are there. So there are two tables. One is a groups table, another one is a users table. Okay. So what data present in those two tables, we just need to understand now. So the same queries, whatever that we are using it here, we will be using it in our onboarding of Sailpoint. Okay. So let's see what is the data present in these two tables now. So we'll be writing the queries to fetch the data from these tables. Select star from users. So you can see we have two users in this particular database. One is Prism admin, another one is Walter Henderson. Okay. So groups we have users, manager, and super. So these are the entitlements. Okay. So if you just carefully understand, we have an users data, and from that users data, we have the entitlement data in the form of a groups. Hence, we also have a groups other table as well. So let's see what is present in that particular table. So you can see these three groups contains their descriptions over here listed. Okay. So this is how the group data is being provided. And by looking at this data, what we can say, we have onboarded the previous applications, right? Financial application and PAM application specifically. So in the PAM application, we have seen, right, we have an account schema as well as we have a group schema that is being configured. So in this particular application also, we will be configuring the group schema. Okay, we will be configuring an account schema where the user data will be present, and also we will be configuring the group schema. So this is how we will be onboarding the data for this Prism application. Now let's look at the track application. What is the data present in the track application? So use track. So database has been changed. Next, what we will be doing, we will be checking in what are the tables present in that particular database. We show tables. So see here also we have two tables. One is a users table and another one is a capabilities table. So we may also think whether this particular application also has a group schema as well as the account schema to be configured. But first looking into the data, then first we need to check the data, and then we need to decide whether this application also we need to configure an account schema and group schema both. Okay. So first see what is present in this particular data. So select so we have 156 users, and if you could carefully observe, We have the ID, username, first name, last name, as well as the email. Okay. So only this data is being present with us. We don't see any entitlement related column over here. But if you want to create an account schema, mandatory we should have an entitlement field. Okay, and that field only will, with the using of that particular field, will be configured the group schema. But for this application, you only see the normal employee identity attributes. So if we try to onboard with this particular account schema into Sailpoint, this data already present in the Sailpoint in the HR system, right? There is no point of creating something new data over here. Okay, we are not adding any entitlements to the account schema. So we'll see what is present in the capabilities table also, and then we'll see what we can do over here. Select star from capabilities. So you can see here, right, there are 300 rows and you can see all the capabilities listed over here. So these capabilities are the entitlements. So you have input, super, reject, approve. So these are the entitlements that we have. But if you just carefully understand, these entitlements are present in this capabilities table. So how we can add these capabilities to the users table? So in this kind of situation, we would not be creating an account schema and group schema separately, guys. So what we're gonna do is like we will be concatenating these two tables. Okay, we'll be merging these two tables and putting into one particular table. Okay, we'll not putting into one particular table, but we'll be generating a new query that concatenates these two tables. So in database, we have some concept called as joins, left outer join, right outer join, this kind of a concept that we do have it. So using that particular concept, we are going to concatenate or merge these two tables into one. Okay, so let's write a query. So select star from users left outer join capabilities on users.id equal to capabilities, because we are taking the primary keys which are common in both. So IDs are common in both. So capabilities dot id. Okay, so let's start from users, where left outer join capabilities on users dot id equal to capabilities dot id. Next, I wanted to list them or display them based upon their in a sorting order with the name of with having a username as a sorting criteria. So order by users dot username, because the username is present in the users table only. Okay, now just run it. So you can see we have 300 rows because each identity has 3 to 4 entitlements added, right? So that is the reason. If you carefully observe, both the tables got concatenated over here or joined. We have ID, username, first name, last name, email, ID, capability, and description. You may get a question like, we have two IDs in this row, in this columns. Can we get like, can this be kind of a duplicate? So Sailpoint will be considering only one ID. Okay, it will not be duplicated. Okay, so if you just see here, we have the first four records are like Aaron Nicholas only. So by looking at it, what we can just say, we need a merging to be configured over here. We need to perform the merging in this particular application. So that is how you need to first analyze the application and then you need to process that or onboard that application into Sailpoint. So this is about the JDBC application. Coming to an LDAP application. So for an LDAP application, basically you see an LDAP browser over here, right? Or else I'll complete first onboarding the JDBC application and then I'll come to the LDAP application. So I'm just clicking on add new application. So first I'm going to onboard the track application. So let me give the name here. So it's a time tracking application. Owner administrator. It's the JDBC connector. Let the page gets loaded. Configuration. Connection user is root. Password is also root. Database URL. Host. DB name it is expecting. So host is the local host because in our local system only it's been configured, right? The database. So local host in your real time, whatever the server that your client is been providing to you in the requirement sheet, you need to provide that particular database host name as well as the database. So my DB name is track. This is my DB name. And JDBC driver, you have com.mysql.jdbc.driver. So you can ignore that as it is. Next. So test connection SQL, we are not typing in anything over here. SQL statement, we need to write that query. So which we have built. So we have created a new query, right? So that particular query we need to take it. So let me just copy that query. So this is the query, right? We need to copy this query. Copy, paste it here. So apart from this particular query, we also need to write in the getObject SQL, which captures the single accounts. Okay. The same query only will be pasting it here, but instead of this order by, we will be putting it like where users.username equal to a single identity. So how do you represent that? In the quotes, enclosed with a quote, dollar symbol, enclosed with braces, identity. This is how you will be representing it. Now just do a test connection to make sure whether the connections are successful. See, test connection is successful. For example, if I am giving an incorrect database name, what would happen? Just click on the test connection. See, unknown database track connection got failed. So this is the error that you will be getting. So you need to give the proper credentials and then you should make sure the test connection is successful. This is how. Now go to the schema, click on this discover schema attributes. So you got this data, right? So in this particular data, this capability, what do you say, attribute contains the entitlements data. Hence, you need to mark this capability column as an entitlement, multi-valued, and also managed field. Save it. So why we are marking it as a multi-valued field? Why? Because we are going to perform the merging. As of now, it's a single valued field only. But after we perform the merging, it becomes a multi-valued field. So that is the intention. And also identity attribute. So for this time, I'm just taking this username only as the identity attribute and the display attribute also as the username. Okay. Now I'm just doing a preview. See, only a few identities got listed, but how many identities we do have? Around 156 records that are 156 identities that we have it. At least 10 identities should be populated, having the capability, multiple capabilities for one particular user, but that is not happening here. So what we gonna do? Go ahead and perform the merging. So go to merging. Data needs to be merged. Yes. Index column. So I took here the username as the identity attribute, right? The same I'm putting it over here. And which column should be merged? Capability, because that is only storing the entitlements. So we can do a preview. We may get an error, but after saving the application, we'll again do a preview because sometimes without saving the application, it won't be populated. So correlation. So rather doing the manual correlation this time, we are going to write a rule. Okay. So just go to this rule section. So you can see here the correlation rule, right? This is the place where we are going to write the correlation logic. So open this editor, give a name to it. Okay. So I have already written that piece of code. Let me just put in and explain that. Yeah. So this is a piece of code that we have written instead of doing the correlation manually. Okay. So first, whenever you are writing this particular rule, you need to first see the surroundings over here. Okay. You can see here the return type is mentioned as map. Okay. Rule type is correlation, and the return type is mentioned as map. And what it can return? An identity name, identity attribute name, identity attribute value. Okay. Since the return type is a map, the first thing that you need to do is defining a map. Okay, so the first step is defining the map in Sailpoint, and the last step is returning that particular map here. In between, whatever the data that you are writing it, is that what you want to place the data into the map. So basically in Java programming, map is a key and a value pair. Okay, so here we are just taking it one key value and one value, the pair. Okay, so if you see, I'm just creating a variable called user ID, string user ID equal to account dot get string attribute of ID. Okay, so ID is the attribute that is present in our data, right? In our headers or the attribute list. So all those IDs, I'm just getting it from there and placing it as a string. I'm representing it as a string. Okay. So now what I am doing it, I'm just validating. I'm doing a null check over here. If user ID is not equal to null, then only go to that particular condition. Okay. So here in the return map dot put identity attribute name. So here you can see returns identity attribute name value. You can see here, right? So identity attribute name as employee ID, that is one key, and identity attribute value as user ID. This is the value. Okay. So we are just passing the key and a value pair, and this particular thing we are just putting under a map. We are returning that particular map. This is the same correlation configuration that we would be generally doing manually. Employee ID with employee ID, user ID with employee ID. So like that we would be doing it, right? The similar way, the same thing that we have put it in the form of a rule. Okay, that is what mentioned over here. Next. So once this employee ID matches with this user ID, and also if the user ID is not equal to null, so in that kind of situation only the correlation would be happening. So save it, select the rule and save the application. So we haven't previewed the data, right? Let me just preview the data once after opening the application. See, username, capability. So for each user, these many capabilities have been allocated. So 10 users, it is been displaying the data. So that is how you need to understand. Now go ahead to the setup and tasks. So since there is only account schema that we had configured, only the account aggregation that we are supposed to configure. So go to the new task, account aggregation. Give a name. Track account aggregation, I'm just giving a name. Select that particular application. Scroll down, select the recommended checkboxes, detect deleted accounts, disable optimization of unchanged accounts, and promote managed attributes. Why? Because the attribute we marked it as a managed, the capability attribute. So I'm just saving and executing it. Let me see whether the task got completed. It got completed, right? You can open it and check it out. See, total 156 accounts were there and 156 36 accounts are successfully scanned. So if you observe here, what you can just say is like there are no uncorrelated accounts that have been created. All the accounts got successfully correlated. There was a perfect match found, and all the accounts got successfully correlated. And you can see managed entitlements 4. Okay, what does this states? So we have 4 entitlements that got promoted into Sailpoint, and identity entitlements created. So each identity has some 4 entitlements, right? Hence the total count became 300. So the same 300 count you could have seen over here also. So in this query, the result, the count of the rows. See here, 300 rows. Okay, that is the count that you need to match it over here. Okay, so as I told you previously also, this is a connected application. So earlier whatever the onboarding that we have done, that was with the delimited file connectors, and those are the disconnected applications. These are the connected applications in Sailpoint.